we have other meetings and so forth this afternoon. So I've already forewarned our presenters this morning, noon is the deadline. So no filibustering, no nothing. We want to leave plenty of time for questions if there are any. And so I want to turn it over to Dr. Margino, our first presenter this morning.
All right, we appreciate you allowing us to be here. I did want to introduce our staff here that we have with us. Of course, Dr. Lance Evans is our incoming superintendent. He'll start July 1st, and we're excited about Lance and what he'll bring to the Department of Education. Of course, most of you know Ms. Holly Spivey, our legislative liaison, Dr. Paula Vanderford, our Chief Accountability Officer, and then Dr. Felicia Gavin, who is our Chief Operations Officer. So we'll be sharing with you just some updates from the Department of Education that you had asked for. Okay, of course, we start all of our presentations, but for time's sake, I'm going to kind of jump through our vision and mission, but jump into our strategic planning goals. And as any organization, you always have your strategic planning goals. You always want to set goals. And this drives everything that we do at the Department of Education and throughout the state. But I would ask that you pay attention to these 6 goals because some of these next slides are going to address each of these goals. Okay, some of the topics we'll cover today will be, of course, an overview of the Department of Education, education achievements, our legislative priorities, a little bit of update on the accountability model, and then Mississippi Adequate Education Program. All right, a quick overview of the Mississippi Department of Education. Of course, we provide professional development, technical assistance in areas of academics, licensure, child nutrition, finance, safe and orderly schools, and so much. The Department of Education not only has to serve as a resource to our districts, but also as the, I guess you could say, the regulatory agency. You can see quite a bit of federal funds come through. Even more have come through the last few years, but traditionally around $1.5 billion in federal funds. And then if MAEP was fully funded right there at $2.9 to $3 billion. So a lot of funds come through. The Department of Education, I have learned, is pretty much a pretty lean organization, believe it or not. So much of this is a flow through. It really flows out to different, to the districts and so forth. Actually, for operations at the Department of Education, only 0.69% of funds stay at the Department of Education. It mostly goes out. Current staff at the Department of Education, not including the school attendance officers, is 337 employees, okay? We have about, I believe it's 122 school attendance officers as well. So you would add that to get the, the grand total. Okay, a few achievements I wanted to share with you. Of course, most of you guys in here grew up in Mississippi, as I imagine most of us in this room did. And for all our life, we've heard Mississippi was last in education. And that is just no longer the case. Mississippi is currently ranked 35th in our country. It's obviously not good enough, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. Our NAEP scores are 21st in the country for 4th grade reading. We actually will have the 2024 NAEP. Our districts will be taking here in the near future, those that are selected to take that. Graduation rate, this is the most updated graduation rate. It is at 89.4%. That's the highest in the history of our state, and that just came out this past month. So we're real excited about that, and that is above the national average as well. I want to thank each of you for this slide right here. You guys made an investment in pre-K as a legislature years ago. We currently have, you can see there, 58% of our 4-year-olds in the state of Mississippi are in a publicly funded pre-K program. And that has really, we've seen the dividends and the just this pay off for us. Last year, you guys appropriated $20 million for the SIP, the state invested pre-K program there. So we have the early learning collaboratives and the SIP. But that has been a phenomenal boost to our kids, and we've seen the impact on our early grades. Okay, this is something that we're really proud of, some of these next slides, and I think you should be proud of as well. The 3rd grade reading achievement, you can see this year, we had our highest initial pass rate on the 3rd grade reading assessment since we've been requiring this. So that has been really good, and you can see how it's continued to go up since COVID. All right, This is the slide that I want each of you to really feel proud of. And there's a lot of educators in this room that we owe a debt of gratitude to. You can see this is not normal. This slide you're looking at right now, this is not normal for across the United States of America. Mississippi is one of the few states that are here. Actually, I had a gentleman from one of the national organizations reach out to us in early August after test scores had come back and all that. And so I can't say for certain now if this still holds, but in August, at that time, we were the only state in the country that he had found that actually not only got back to, but exceeded pre-pandemic levels. So in both ELA and mathematics. So I say all that to say, and in talking to some of these different states and national groups, a debt of gratitude is owed to our state leadership, you guys. A debt of gratitude is owed to our educators across the state. So many of us in 2020, and I can remember it as clear as day because I was a local superintendent at that time, and I remember it was a tough time. Any decision you made was going to be the wrong decision in certain people's eyes. But the majority of our schools across the state, we got back to work. We went back in person and got back to work. And I truly believe that our children are better off today. And that is why you see Mississippi not only meeting our pre-pandemic levels, you can see 2019, and then you go over to 2023, you can see not only meeting, but exceeding where we were pre-pandemic. That, again, that is not common across our country. That is something that I think our teachers and our students and our leaders across the state should be very proud. And again, this is not a common slide across the United States of America. So we're very proud of the work that our folks have done across the state. Okay, ACT. Mississippi is one of 15 states that requires all students in high school to take the ACT. So you can see the average score there for our juniors was 17.5. The graduating class highest average was 17.9. And then you have the super score. And the super score is just when you take your highest ACT score for each area and combine them. And you can see 19.9 was the average there. And that's obviously not good enough. We know that needs to improve. And we do have some districts with ACT prep courses and the college and career readiness course. And some of these skills are taught in that, but there's definitely room for improvement here. But you also sometimes have to take that into account that we are one of 15 states that you get the average off every student, every public school student in the state of Mississippi takes this. So I guess if you flip that script, you could look at SAT scores, and we're probably in like the top 15 in the country when you would look at SAT scores, because only our select students that are trying to get into maybe a school in the Northeast or what have you take that. So sometimes you have to take some of those things into account when you're looking at these national statistics. Okay, this is a slide that I want to say a big thank you for. A few years ago, work keys was not given to a whole lot of kids across the state. Okay, and I remember when I was in Rankin County, the economic development group there was really pushing us to try to get more and more work keys in the schools. And you guys allocate $1 million a year to the Department of Ed to reimburse our schools across the state for the ACT work keys. And let me tell you why that is so important. More kids are taking it now. Last year we gave up 28,000 assessments, okay? Most kids take about 3 sections of it, okay? So just say 3 assessments for one kid. But about 28,000 assessments were given to our high school students. And now 65% of our kids in high school are scoring at silver or better. And you say, well, what's so big about that? I was at Nissan just Tuesday of this week with our student advisory group. We were over there touring and visiting with them. And, they brought up, one of the kids asked, well, what do we have to do to come work here? And it's the same way at Ingalls and some of our other larger employers. And they say, you have to have a high school diploma and a silver on the work keys. And in talking with the vice president there at Nissan, he shared with me, he said, we lowered it to bronze at a time because we were needing more people to, score silver or better. And he said, but we found the kids that scored bronze just weren't able to handle it. And so the silver has kind of been their sweet spot. And so this is a great slide to see. And again, the funding that you guys have given for that has been phenomenal. And especially as more and more larger companies seem to come to our state, it gives our kids an opportunity, whether they want to go straight on to college or whether they want to go straight to the workforce. It gives them other options. So this is something that we're really proud of. And just a side note, because I looked at this, because like I said, you guys allocate $1 million for reimbursing to the school districts. If you wanted to test all juniors in the state on the work keys, if you wanted to do that, you're only looking at probably $400,000 more dollars, and you could give every kid in the state as far as their junior year, or however they want to do it, the work keys. So most of our kids are getting an opportunity already to take that. But if you wanted to make every kid, have that opportunity, it's not a gigantic cost. Okay, dual credit enrollment. About 14% of our kids are enrolled in dual credit across the state in our high schools, and about 94%, I believe it is, are earning a C or better in that course. Advanced placement, you can see the increase in advanced placement participation and success on that. You can see that has doubled. As far as your far left, you can see the qualifying scores have more than doubled over the past 10 years, the number of students tested and the number of assessments given. So advanced placement has really taken off as well. We have some pockets that do really well. Some of our schools on the coast have just, Ocean Springs is one that comes to mind that has just done phenomenal when it comes to advanced placement and the number of students taking advanced placement courses and being successful on there. Okay, this is something also that you can see we have one of the state goals there. And I told you a lot of our state goals you're going to see on these slides. This is every school and district is rated C or higher. Okay, you can see in 2016, I can't see from here without my glasses. I believe that's 12% of our schools were a D or F. And you can see today, our district, I'm sorry, we're 38%. My bad, I'm looking at today's slide. So 38% in 2016 of our schools were Ds or F, and our districts were Ds or F. Okay, today, I think sometimes there's been that narrative like there's a D or F school on every corner, and that's just not the case anymore. Now, we have 849 schools in the state of Mississippi. 40 of them are Fs, and that's 40 too many. But that comes to less than 5% of our schools are what you would say failing technically today. On the district side, you can see 91% of our schools are A, B, or C right now. And I say all this to say, again, sometimes it seems like there's that narrative that there's so many, and we always have room for improvement, and we're never going to be as good as we have to be. I mean, we can always get better every year. But I also want to make sure we do recognize the hard work and the success that our state has had in education over the last few years. You can also see on this next slide, we have, 6 D-rated districts in the state of Mississippi and 6 F-rated. I will point out 3 of the 6 are your charters on the D. So we have 3 D-rated school districts. One of them is in our achievement school district. So that's on us to get it up. And then you can see 3 F-rated districts that fall under the Department of Education, and then 3 charters. So I guess the point is there's not a D or F-rated district on every corner like there once was. So there's just been a lot of improvement, and that we have a lot of momentum. And I think this also goes back to, we have had funding. This will segue into a few slides down, but we've had funding like we never have the last few years. And I think this kind of shows what our educators and our students and teachers can do when they're funded. We have made some transformational improvements across education in our state. Okay, a few of our legislative priorities. I know you guys have some backup materials and all that, but obviously by law, we have to come in and request full funding every year. Full funding would be right at $3 billion, okay? I believe this year it was like 2.4 I believe, 2.4 billion was what was put into MAEP this year. And you guys also, I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you for the additional what you gave to school districts. You did some outside of the formula as well that you need to be commended for. That 100 million, that was a godsend to districts to be able to do things as some of the ESSER funds are leaving. So thank you for stepping up. We appreciate what you guys have done for education. Okay, the licensure call center operations. Okay, this is something we funded with COVID, and this is one of our asks. We have 15 contract workers there that are doing that. And to put that into perspective, used to when people would call, it'd be like a 30-minute wait. Now it's like a 30-second wait. It used to take 6 weeks to get a license done at MDE. Now it takes I guess a day and a half, we'll say. Some of them shorter than that, literally less than 2 days to get your license now. And that is a huge improvement. So that's something we would like to see because our office used to get complaints about that. You guys used to get complaints about that. And I doubt you're hearing those complaints about that now because it is happening so fast now. So that's definitely a priority. Another priority is the school attendance officers transferring to under the realm of the districts. Chronically absent students is an issue. In Mississippi, it's an issue across the United States. But I have not found another state that has the setup like we do. There's probably a reason for that. I think you can take the common sense test and know that if I'm a school attendance officer and I'm working daily with the superintendent right there, and if I'm a part of that district, I'm gonna be more engaged probably than if I'm answering to somebody at MDE who never sees me. It's just that being together and you guys know this, everybody wants to be a part of something. And when they're a part of that district, I think you're just going to have more cohesiveness. And I think we'll see improvements. Is it going to be the end all fix all? No. But will it help? I truly believe it will. The MECA, that is for system maintenance. That is our new licensure system that kind of goes from folks coming in to all the way, it follows them through the career with our professional growth system and all those different things that our educators have to do. MSIS 2.0, that's a big one. We've had an archaic system. That's our student information system. And so this has been the big update. We've spent a lot of ESSER funds on this, and this is a big ask, but it is, we have the trainings going on right now, and this basically goes live this next school year with our district. So they're being trained on this MSIS 2.0 right now. All right, the accreditation review teams, this is so we can go out and do our job. Go and review accreditation and make sure things are being done the right way. If we want things to consistently perform well, we have to do things the right way. And some of that is, it's not a gotcha, it's more of a, let's go make sure we're doing this right and let's help you. Let's make sure we get it right. That's one of the things we were dinged on in an OIG audit of monitoring graduation rates. And so that was one of the things I said, so we've done accreditation training for all the districts this year because we have to do that. We have to sometimes go and make sure things are done properly so things are done with fidelity. And in the most part, they are. But we have to do our job as well. Then the Office of Test Security, you can see we're asking for that. That's again, so you can be there to make sure things are done with fidelity. School improvement and schools at risk. That's one of our ask as well. And this is for not always, when you think of that, you often think of DNF schools, but what happens, a lot of our, not say a lot, some of our schools get put on school improvement because they may have one, they might be a B or a C school or even an A school that might have a subgroup that's performing poorly. And then they get put on school improvement for that. They get a federal designation of school improvement. And so this is for us to go in and provide basically resources and coaches to help them. A lot of times it's in like special education. It might be that subgroup or English as a second language students or what have you. All right. Statewide assessment system, expansion of early childhood programs. This has been something big. This would be for additional coaches. The MCOPS was, we're asking for a million more. That was the first round this year. The school districts, they wiped it out like in a matter of days as far as that. So there's a definite ask and need from school districts for basically, this is the match where they put in 10,000 and 10,000 goes to them for school resource officers. All right, and then the expansion of professional development program. And then we were asking for the superintendent and principals academies to come back with such turnover we've had over the last few years. So, okay. That I'm going to now ask Dr. Vanderford to come forward and share about the
Let me ask
accountability
this,
model,
remember,
unless I had any
if you
questions.
don't mind, if we could, anybody have any questions for Dr. Morgino? Senator Wiggins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to go to the MCES 2.0 that you were mentioning, and I want to highlight that and you're asking 3.5 million. There's a peer report, a statute mandated peer report that came out as it pertains to the collaboratives that we've required. And in that, it talked about MCES 2.0. And the problem, as I understand it, and I want you to comment on it, is that because of your current system, you're not tracking the children, particularly the Head Start children. And it's my understanding that this 2.0 is going to alleviate that. But the problem and where the negative, I guess, mark against MDE was that MCES was not doing what we wanted to do. Is that right? And can you explain?
Right. MCES 1.0, we'll call it, is very outdated. This update, MCES 2.0, will update daily. Like right now, districts at the end of October, they send in their MCES report. This would be, the report updates every night. And so you just have, you have up-to-date data constantly. And the beautiful part about it, and the team has done a really good job with, this is one of the more, what I would say, robust systems trying to be built across the country. Microsoft has been involved. I mean, it's been a kind of a big deal nationally at just all that this should be able to do. So the short answer, yes. But what we love about it is you can add to it.
But what's the problem we're experiencing with the current system?
The current system is just so much of it being outdated, not tracking some of the data, and not being able to go in and create all the things that you need.
And so
in
you're
there
not
be
able to see
pull
how
it.
the children are performing over time. Is that correct?
Well, I would want to make sure I understand your question. I mean, we obviously, for accountability,
Yeah.
we can. I mean, we get accountability scores every year, so we can see that. So I don't follow.
No, I'm okay. I will refer you to the peer report that came out.
Okay.
Okay. So if you go look at that, they dinged MDE because that data was not there. But the response of MDE was, we are working on and getting MCES 2.0 put into place. So
Yeah.
that's in there. But you're saying I guess where I'm going with it, which is in order to perform at the highest level, we need that system.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
All right. Thank
definitely.
you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I think if I'm correct, Dr. Morgino, the last 2 or 3 years, we've appropriated $9 million to upgrade to 2.0 to allow for the tracking. And now you're asking for another 3.5 million. What's the 3.5 million for?
That's a lot of it is for, part of it is training, and in your backup material, you should have some of that, I believe. If not, I know you will when we do the budget hearing, but there's from augmenting some of the contractors that are working on that as far as some of the costs. Then you have travel for the trainings to go and do all the trainings, make sure everybody gets trained. And then,
But to Senator Wiggins' point, now that you have 2.0, you will be able to track and report like he's asking about, like we need to.
Yes, sir. We should be able to do pretty much anything needed. I mean, and that's the beauty of it, is you can update it constantly with adding to it. It's not just a canned system. It's something that you can go in and add to. And so that is, and it's been created with the help of districts. I mean, they've really been intentional about talking to districts and making sure that it has the features that they need and want as well. So it's kind of been built from the ground up.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for that. And I think that's the point was trying to make, is peer did its job and said, hey, we're not doing what needs to be done in this area. We've done it. And their response is, we're working on it, and so with us putting that money in, we will be able to get that data and everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Wiggins. So let me ask you a couple of questions. You mentioned the federal funds and so forth. Last year, we did 100 million outside the formula, as well as the teacher pay raise. In my discussions with you, the department last year and going forward, you'd prefer that money to be inside the MAP formula, isn't that correct?
It's easier for us, but,
Yes.
you know, beggars aren't going to be choosy either. We were very appreciative for our school districts to get that. I know in talking to the superintendents, that was huge. I mean, it really was.
And I know you mentioned we haven't fully funded MAEP, but you received a significant amount of money in federal money above and beyond what you normally receive, such as ESSER money and COVID money, pandemic money. You have an approximate amount, maybe in the last year or 2 or 3 that you've received?
Gosh, Alicia, that would be.
Well, for the State Department. Is that ESSER 1, 2, 3, plus the COVID money? Okay. Okay. So, and despite the underfunding, I guess you could say the federal money that we received kind of supplemented the districts, and that allowed them to achieve the things that they've done. And so the money actually can solve some problems if you put your money where your mouth is at. Is that correct?
The data would definitely show that. Yes, sir.
Okay. As you probably are aware, the governor made 2 big announcements, and we addressed 2 big economic projects just this year already. Obviously, that means we have to make sure we have workforce prepared to take some of those jobs. And we're doing that through the work keys. What, if anything else, do we need to be doing moving forward to make sure we got a workforce ready to come out with some technical degrees or technical certifications that can fulfill these jobs up in AWS or Marshall County or wherever the case may be?
But I think we have seen a great movement of that, and I'll give a shout out to Accelerate Mississippi. It's been good with the having the career coaches there in most of our schools. That's been a good thing. There's been such a push the last few years for workforce development that we've seen our school districts have really started doing a lot of that already. We're seeing more and more in our CT programs, and just literally the other day, I was so excited when I was at Nissan. I saw Jackson Public Schools. There's a bus, and they have seniors going over there doing an internship right now. So when they graduate this year, they'll be able to, they're already will have gone through the training in their training department right there. They'll be able to go and start a job right there at Nissan. So I think the partnerships is the key, and we've really tried to work on that. We've had a business kind of a group we've met with a few times this year, trying to, to make sure we're doing all that we need to do to provide that. I think the computer classes that are required now across our state, I think that's big, especially for with the data center we have coming right here in Madison. And so continue to work with our community colleges and working with our businesses to make sure we're providing students with the skills they need. But Senator DeBar, in asking him, the first question I asked him this year, I said, what are you seeing in graduates and what do you want to see? And, a lot of it is the common sense things. They said, Ray, we can train them. We can teach them. But we need people that are going to show up to work every day, that are going to have a good attitude, that are going to look you in the eye when they're talking to you, that can be a part of a team, and that can work as a part of a team. And that's, and just some of the old common sense stuff of work ethic and dependability. That's really what they're looking for. And then they, obviously can train them, but we have to stay on the cutting edge. And I think you guys have allowed us to do that the last few years. There's been a lot put into CTE. The dual credit has been big. We have, like you saw, 14% of high school students are taking CTE courses, and actually, or dual credit, I'm sorry, more than that take CTE courses. But so I think we have to continue that, but also keep it a focus. And so, and it is definitely a focus.
Thank you. I recognize Senator Delano.
All right, I think I got this working. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Speaking of focus, I'm going to go back to your computer science discussion. I have been very interested in making sure that the work that the MDE has been doing to incorporate computer science classes into K through 12 is successful, and that we have the training programs necessary and some of the scholarships necessary for teachers to get the accreditation that's required. I still think, and I know there's been some progress on this, but I'm still would like to see more effort put into incorporating computer science classes in different categories of Carnegie units that are required for minimal graduation requirements, so that it's not just in that elective, or it's not just in that technology credit that's required, but that we can incorporate computer science coursework into mathematics, whether it be foreign language, science, anything like that, so that we give high schoolers the opportunity to learn more about computer science while still taking an extracurricular activity, because their schedule does not allow for those credits to be accepted or enfold into their graduation requirements. And also, I would like to see more emphasis from MDE to ask local school districts to review their honors program or their honors graduate program, to incorporate more, or to allow for more computer science classes to either be incorporated or required, because every company that we talk to that's coming into the state, just like AWS has acknowledged, they must have that minimum requirement, or those minimum skills necessary to be able to function in the workplace, just like you had talked about before. But thank you for that opportunity, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate the MDE's continued endeavors in that.
Thank you, Senator Delano. Senator Parker?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to start by saying, I think this one, is this one on? Yeah, this one lights up a little different. We're trying to figure this out. So. Absolutely. Just want to start by saying that, you know, it's great to hear the good comments that you have today. I know 4 years ago when we were looking at ACT work keys, that at very least I would call it some degree of a resistance from MDE to embrace the concept of work keys. And now hearing and seeing that the passage rate at the silver level is above 65%. Is something that we should be very proud of. You mentioned that to have everyone in education take ACT work keys would only require another $300,000 of appropriation. How much of the 1 million that we've set aside have you been using the last couple of years for actual testing?
Oh, all of it. Yeah, it goes, what happens, the districts, they test, and then they basically send to us for reimbursement. And so we reimburse the school districts with that. That's how it's set up right now. But yeah, that it goes through it. They're utilizing it regularly, and it is just growing more and more.
Right.
And it's at all of our schools. When I've even visited our three current failing districts, each of them were talking about work keys as well.
Right.
So they were testing. So most of your districts now are offering the work keys already to your CTE kids, but now they're starting to open it up to even your kids that aren't taking CTE classes.
Right.
So again, so they have that opportunity to go to Ingalls or Nissan or Continental or where have you, since so many of these places are.
So if you are using the full 1 million and it requires only another 300,000, that would, in my quick math in my mind, equate to possibly 70% of our students are now taking the ACT work keys. Is that a pretty fair estimate?
I would say that's, I'm not going to say exact because I don't know exact, but I would say that's probably pretty close. Yes, sir. I would say I can get back with you with exact if you would like, but I would say that's pretty close. Yeah.
I think that's been a key important thing for us to do. And I'm hoping and looking forward to seeing that being given more and more over time. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Parker. I'd like to recognize the House Education Chairman, Representative Rob Robertson. He gets to play senator, at least for a little bit. I think his IQ was just shot up all of a sudden just because of that. So much smarter. Well, thank you for being here. Senator Hickman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of quick questions. Looking at expansion of early childhood education programs, you're asking for a 1.4 million increase. How many more students or districts will that allow us to serve?
Well, a lot of that, what they're asking for is to expand it, and a lot of that is for coaches as well. Right now, when we've expanded, they don't have enough coaches to go to. That's where we've seen so much success in our early literacy piece has been the number of coaches going to make sure we're doing the right stuff. And that's a lot of what that ask was. As far as the additional new spot, I don't know that she was so much asking for new schools per se with that. That was more for getting coaches to where we could be able to help all the districts that currently have it.
And just one other question regarding the same. Have you guys been tracking or do you have any data that shows the impact and even the return on investment for reaching children and putting them in this structured setting earlier rather than waiting until kindergarten?
Yes, I think any teacher would definitely tell you. Not only on the academic side, but so much from the behavior side. A lot of times just kids knowing, I can remember we had a pre-K program in my previous district. And the kindergarten teachers would almost fight over who would get the kids that had been in the pre-K program we had, because they knew how to get along. They knew, sometimes to raise their hand. They knew just the behavior piece was so much easier on them, I guess you would say. But as far as the academic piece, yes, we have seen gains, obviously, in our early literacy. You would be very proud of Mississippi right now in any national conference or anything we go to. We've had literally 29 other states reach out to Mississippi to try to replicate the example or for guidance on improving literacy in their state. And so it has really been impressive to see what our state has done.
Thank you. Just finally, at some point, if you have any data that kind of tracks and shows, again, our return on our investment for investing in children early and the overall impact that it has on our education system, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think on some of the ones like you saw, the increase we've had in proficiency is number one. You look like the third grade assessment. That's obviously you're trying to get, the kids ready early. And the third grade reading, everybody calls it the third grade gate per se. That is, we had our highest initial pass rate ever this year. So I think, again, you're seeing that return on investment right there. But then your gain in proficiency we've had. We literally went up in proficiency from pre-COVID. We went up in proficiency in every grade and every ELA or math course, with the exception of sixth grade math was the only place that we had not gone up since COVID. So we have seen it across our entire system. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Senator Boyd.
I'm going to go back to slide 10, and I want to congratulate everybody and all the work they've done to get us, surpassing those pre-COVID levels. One of the things that the legislature has done over the last several years is invest heavily in math coaches and reading coaches. And so when you look at this slide and looking at this, these are fantastic numbers and we're doing so much better, but we've still got a long ways to go right here.
Definitely.
And so my question to you is, are we putting enough resources in those reading coaches, the math coaches, and kind of what's the plan to get us to this next level? So we're kind of hovering way above 50% on our students that are proficient and advanced.
Let's see. Of course, the reading piece has been very successful. The math piece is a little newer, and that's been a little more challenging because our districts are having trouble getting enough math teachers as it is. So you don't want to go and steal math teachers from the districts to make them coaches. So that's why that was kind of outsourced. We're looking at that to see how effective it is, but that's a challenge because you don't want to harm districts when you're doing, the goal is to help all the districts. But definitely more professional development with that. And that's kind of in that ask, more professional development. And then, of course, and we work, when I say more professional development, a lot of it also starts with working with our education prep providers, our universities, and they have been fabulous on working together with this. And so to making sure that when the kids come out as a certified teacher, that they're trained in what we need them to be trained on already. And so that that communication and that piece has really started working better. And then the other thing, I guess you would say maybe the next big thing, we kind of have we do have a pilot right now of the 4 through 8 reading to really try to push it in that. We do well. You can see our NAEP scores. We have the highest growth in the country on 4th grade reading and math. And we're only 1 point below the national average in 4th grade reading NAEP. But when you get to 8th grade, that gap widens. Instead of us closing it, it widens. And so we often find that our secondary teachers, it's like reading is no longer taught. Basically, they're just doing the classes. And so that's where we see that gap widen. And so, we have started working a kind of a train the trainer model with that. And we actually have a literacy academy coming up for districts to send folks to get trained. So our people train them on that. And then they go back to the districts and implement this. But we're doing it at Laurel is one of the districts right now. We have the pilot program going. And so I would look for that in the future to come, because y'all, as an old high school principal, I would look at a kid when they were coming in as a 9th grader. I would look, and if they had a C in 2nd grade, I knew they were going to struggle to pass the English 2 test. So we were throwing the kitchen sink at them, trying to get them ready right then when they came into 9th grade, giving them all the extra support you can. So it makes it a lot easier on your high school principals if that support has happened sooner. And so that's where we want to see that go, where our secondary teachers are not trained in teaching reading. And that's where we're working to train them so they can give these kids that help, because y'all know as well as I do, that gap, it just widens if you don't get it by 3rd grade a lot of times.
Thank you. Thank you. If you want to introduce Dr. Gavin.
Yes, I think I have Dr. Vanderford and Dr. Gavin.
Yes, please.
We will have to.
Well, if you could, I'll have both of you present and we'll hold questions until you're both done, and save a few minutes if Dr. Evans, if you want to make any comments at the very end, if you'd like.
I'll try to speak rapidly. When the chairman said we were going to adjourn at 12, all my colleagues looked at me. So when we're going to talk about our accountability system for just a few minutes, but when you look at an accountability system, there's 3 primary areas that we want to focus. We want to ensure that the system establishes a minimum set of standards for all schools and all districts, and that the students, when they leave our public school system, are prepared for the college and career, whichever path that they choose. We want to also have a system that informs parents on how well our students are doing. We want the parents in real time to know how the students are performing on the assessment, which is our proficiency rates. We also want parents to know if the students are making a year's worth of progress in a year's time, as they should with our growth measures, and we want to ensure that students are graduating on time. And then we also want the system to be able to drive behaviors. And I think Dr. Morgino in his presentation, with all the performance slides and the outcomes, we'll see that the system that we currently have now, which was a result of a Senate bill in 2012, implemented in 2013, has definitely served its purpose. It's driven those behaviors, and now we're seeing the progress that we have had over the last 10 years. This is just a little timeline slide that shows you that accountability first came into play in 1988. The model in 1988 and 1995 was only focused on districts. When accountability first came into play for schools was in 2003. Throughout that time, we've had different levels of measures, but in 2013, we implemented the A through F system in accordance with the Senate bill. So I know you all know what's in statute, but this is just a summary of what the Senate bill in 2012 did. It required the agency to implement a single A through F system. It combined our federal and state models. It established those 5 performance levels, the A through F system. It incorporated a standards-based growth model. It required us to use a federally compliant 4-year graduation rate compared to the previous system, which used a 5-year. So in the past, when we had 2 systems, the state used a 5-year and the feds used a 4-year. So it required us 4 years. And it also required us that at any point in time that 75% of our students reached proficiency, or when 65% of our schools or districts were rated an A or a B, that we reset the standards, or in you'll hear the term in the district, reset our cut scores. So we're at that point now with the latest results that we've got. In the coming days or months, you'll hear a lot of conversation about what that might look like as we move to implement that in the law. There's a lot of considerations that we have to take in place. Districts are really anxious to know the timeline. What is this going to look like for us when this goes into play? But we've had a lot of factors that have affected this. We've had a lot of waivers that were granted as a result of the pandemic. In 2012, we didn't plan for a pandemic and the disruption that it may cause to our accountability system. So we've had some slight changes in the business rules over time, and we still have what we refer to as a little noise in the system and the grades that have been assigned to schools and districts over time. We've also had, we've undergone for the last year an audit from the Office of the Inspector General of our implementation of our accountability system, and that is requiring us to make some minor changes to our business rules. And then also the timing of this, when the board approved the grades that the districts and the schools currently have now, the school year was underway. So we have a precedence of trying to ensure that districts have advance notice of any changes to the rules. So there's a lot of angst and concern about the timeline around setting the standards. When we look at federal law, some of the main requirements of that is that we assess all students, grades 3 through 8, and in high school in ELA and math. It also requires us to assess students in science in grades 5, 8, and in high school is the way we do it in Mississippi. You have to do it once in elementary, middle, and high, and so that's the grades we've chosen. Our assessments must be aligned to our standards at that individual grade level. The federal law also requires us to test our English language learners, grades K through 12. So that's done through our, what we refer to as the English Language Proficiency Test, or the ELPT. It also requires that we assess our students with disabilities. So Math A is our alternate assessment, that we have a set of standards for students that are identified as SCD with significant cognitive disabilities. And we are only allowed to assess 1% of those students on an annual basis, but these are the students that are working toward an alternate diploma or may receive a certificate of completion. This is a summary of the federal law and the requirements that we have under the Every Student Succeeds Act. It requires states to set long-term goals for all students and for students within the subgroups, for each subgroup. And we have to do that around academic achievement, high school graduation, as well as the English language learners. Then when we talk about school accountability, it requires us to have a system that meaningfully differentiates one school from another. And then we have a category of indicators that fall under that, which is our academic achievement, which is another academic indicator, which we use both growth and graduation for that, the English proficiency, and then additional indicators. So the additional indicators that we use for school quality and student success are our college and career readiness. That's where we see the ACT and the ACT work keys come in, and then our acceleration component, and that's where districts get credit for their dual credit, dual enrollment, advanced placement, or in industry certifications. It also requires us to identify schools for school improvement. And when you hear in the previous model under No Child Left Behind, schools for school improvement had to be identified as priority schools or focus schools. Now that terminology has changed to CSI, or comprehensive support, or TSI, the targeted support, or ATSI for additional targeted supports. This is a slide that we use a lot to help people just wrap their brain around all of the assessments that are required that schools and districts administer. And then where is that requirement found? Is that requirement found in a state law, in a federal law, or is it a policy of the State Board of Education? So this is just a recap when I said grade 3 through 8 in ELA and math, and then the science, the ELPT, the alternate assessment. And then if you look at our end of course, there's a double requirement there because our state law requires our 4 subject area in the course for graduation requirements, as well as the ACT. The only assessment that we give in the high schools that's really not required by federal law is the U.S. history test. That is required by state law. So overall, an accountability system, we want to ask our self questions. Did the students meet the expectations? Did they improve from one year to the next as we expected? And did all students participate? There is a requirement in the federal law that says all students must assess, and then there's penalties if states or districts or schools do not have 95% of their students participate. So the requirement is all, but that threshold prior to consequences is 95%. And then the graduation rates, did the students graduate on time? And then again, our English language learners, are they making the progress that we expect them to make? This is a slide that just summarizes our accountability system for elementary and middle schools in a nutshell. So it's what we call a 700-point system. So it would be nice round numbers until we incorporated the English learner progress measure in 2017 as required by law. But you'll see that we have categories for proficiency in ELA math and science, and then we have growth for all students in ELA and math, and then the growth of the lowest 25% of students in ELA and math. And then, of course, the English language learner piece, that's if a district or school meets the minimum in count. If they do not meet the minimum in count, then that category makes the other, categories, instead of 95 points, it puts them at 100 points. These are our indicators for high schools, same indicators as for middle school, except you see those measures for school quality and student success incorporated here with the college and career readiness. That's the ACT work keys. And then, as I mentioned, the acceleration component. The graduation component is also for any school that contains a grade 12. This is heavily weighted in our system. It's 20%, which is required by the federal law as well. And then the high schools and districts follow this same model as well. Also have the requirement for the English language learners. So this is a timeline of what we use within the agency and have done over the past 10 years with this model for a cycle of continuous review and improvement. Our model that we have in Mississippi that we've been using for 10 years, we are now sharing this on a national level in other states, or doing or beginning to do what we do. So it begins with public feedback that comes in a number of ways, from stakeholders notifying the agency of concerns that they have or some additional indicators or components that they would like to receive in the model. And a lot of this we gather from one year to the next based on feedback from the local superintendents or principals and what they see when they see their grades. So we might revise a business rule, for example, if we have a lot of questions. One year when the accountability results are released, if principals and superintendents are sending emails, asking questions, then that tells us that that business rule may not be very clear and that we need to revisit that. We also annually convene an accountability task force, and this is school and district education leaders, ranges from around 20 to 25. We have superintendents, principals, experts in the field of special education, those that work with English language learners, et cetera, to garner their feedback. They last met on January the 25th. So they're all of the things that we're considering moving forward, like reestablishing those standards. They're having those conversations. It's a public meeting. They'll meet again on February the 25th, and we'll be giving our board an update next month on some of the conversation they had. That moves into our technical advisory committee, which is required by the federal law. This is a group of national technical experts in the areas of assessment and accountability. And so what they do is they review state's policies to ensure that they're technically sound and that they're fair and equitable and valid and reliable. Then we move that forward, we move that forward to the Commission on School Accreditation, which is a governing body under the umbrella of the State Board of Education, and then on to our State Board of Education for approval and to begin the Administrative Procedures Act process. And then finally, the last slide that I have is just highlighting our report card. And so here you can see any data point that you would like to see for any school or district in the state. I have the QR code listed here for that. And then just on the side is just an example about what that data might look like for a district or school when you look at the report card.
Okay, the next couple of slides will just focus on the MAP portion of our budget. And particularly, we look at the base student costs, and then that will move into the full calculation of what our ask is for MAP. Paula, you killed the mic. Not moving for me. Okay. Okay, you see on this slide, the FY24 base student costs was $7,265.21. And the components that we've added to get to our FY25 base student costs is we added the adjustment for PERS as well as the increase in the insurance and then a slight increase for the life insurance. So our estimate for our FY25 student-based cost is $7,465. And so based on that, full funding for MAP for FY25 will be the 2.991, basically $3.3 billion when we add our add-on programs and as well as our other options to get to a $3 billion full funding ask for MAP. And then the next slide just gives you the base student costs of the full funding. And then you take our add-on programs as well as our other programs and you get to, again, the full funding ask for FY25 is the 2.991, basically $3 billion is our ask for full funding. And that is based on ADA as the law prescribes. And we'll actually, I think FY27 is the year that we'll actually recalculate the student-based cost, FY27.
Thank you, Doctor. And that, you recalculate the BSC every 4 years, is that right?
Yes.
Once for 27?
Yes, and then at that point, we will have to pull in all the other adjustments such as the teacher pay raise into that calculation.
The BSC, that's the amount every child receives per district based on the ADA.
Correct.
And that includes the 2% PERS increase of 28.4 million?
Yes. I think that's, and then when you take the add-on programs, that total cost is 37 million.
37 million.
And then the insurance piece is 14. So the total cost of the insurance adjustment would be 51 million.
Does anybody have any questions for Dr. Gavin or Dr. Vanderford? Okay, you got off easy. Dr. Evans, do you want to make any comments or before we finish up?
One, I just want to start off by applauding the efforts of the ladies and gentlemen here on both sides of the Capitol here. You've done an outstanding job in providing the support. I fully respect and understand the importance of the relationship between the MDE and the members of the House and the members of the Senate. And while, the gist of this conversation today has been based around dollars, and I do understand that where the rubber meets the road, there are only so many dollars. And it's not just public education that pulls at you, but we all understand the importance of the impact public education has on the future of Mississippi. And I'll just say one thing. I think I really appreciated the opportunity in and around the Capitol to catch up with most everyone in here. So I think most everyone understands, for the most part, my philosophy on, I have a very common sense approach to the world. And I can assure you that everything that I do in the department and even what they currently do. But me personally is centered around driving Mississippi forward. And I appreciate, as long as you ladies and gentlemen see it fit, at some point in time for me to be confirmed, I look forward to the opportunity to work with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Evans. Chairman Robertson, we appreciate you being here this morning. Do you have any questions or comments for anybody?
Thank you for letting me.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Dr. Morgino, we thank you for being here. I don't know if you'll be before the committee again, but we appreciate you stepping up in this position, doing a great job, and nothing but the best come July 1st. So don't be a stranger. So do I hear a motion by anybody? Rise and report.